I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. There's lots of different things I want to unpack, but let's start here. You've been working in the field of robotics for many years now, and help us understand how you got into this profession.
I never actually planned to be a university professor or specialize in robotic. I come from a different field, which was computer science. My passion was video games, but circumstances led me to start studying Japan, and the flow somehow led me to this profession.
As you were feeling led to, you know, move into professorship and robotics, was faith a part of that decision, or how did your relationship with God play into that?
I believe it was probably my destiny, or let's call it God's will, to end up here because I didn't really feel fulfilled back there in Italy. I still have no other explanation for that. Some doors open in life, some others are closed. And I believe that faith is to believe that there could be a design behind that.
And was faith something that was always a part of your life, or something that has been discovered over time?
No, it was always part of my life. I'm born in Italy and raised as Christian, Catholic, and well, it keeps you company in everyday life. But I think that moving to Japan completely changed my life at some point was an important step.
If we could, let's talk about that move to Japan, because that's a pretty dramatic thing. You're in Italy and you're choosing to presumably uproot your life and establish something more in Japan. What was the initial reason for that, and then what prompted you to stay?
That's quite a unique reason, actually. I had a dream back there many years ago in Italy. I had a dream twice at night that I was living in Japan. And that was the trigger to just visit the country and just take a holiday. It was a point of no return because a chain reaction started to happen, which eventually led me to move here and to take the robotics career, which wasn't even my interest. I wasn't even interested in Japan before that. I was kind of pushed towards that. And in life, you get chances given, some doors open. It's up to you to take them or not.
Yeah, the Holy Spirit has a wonderful way of opening some doors and closing some others, and then hopefully giving us the courage to go through the doors that were open. So robotics, what is it about robotics that's captured your imagination and kind of prompted you to keep pressing into that and studying that? And we'll talk about in a second, innovating on that.
The robotics was the only chance I had to keep traveling to Japan as an intern first, as a student. But I realized that I greatly enjoyed doing research, and robotics is a very interdisciplinary field where, since robots are a kind of mirror of humans, there are many aspects of humanities involved. It's not just mechanics and computer science.
Well, let's talk about some of the ways that you've utilized that insight and that wisdom in those trips to Japan in order to innovate. One of the things, as we were doing the research, that really caught my attention was you helped develop a robotic system called Santo. Could you explain what Santo is and kind of where that idea came from?
So Santo, which first prototype is right back here, you can see it. It was first developed in 2017 in Peru in the Pontifical Catholic University. There I had some small funds and team to realize it. It's first prototype. Then other copies follow. For example, there is a bigger one now in Poland, which is a permanent exhibition at the Copernicus Science Center in Warsaw. It was supposed to be a robot that act as a support for Christian Catholic elderly person, typically living alone, like there are many in my home country, which is Italy. And one example was my grandmother. She often prayed at home, keeping all saints, icons. And I thought that an interactive saint could support cognitively and keep good company.
And so how did that come into being then? So you had this idea of, and I love that as a story. How do I serve someone? And you're thinking of your grandmother who's maybe homebound or isn't able to get out, but has real faith, real devotion, both to the Lord and to these saints. What an incredible source of inspiration for this technology. So you have that inspiration, then kind of how did you see it into reality? Because you have the prototype right behind you. So somehow it went from idea to reality.
The idea was typically laughed upon when I talked to other researchers, and they saw it as something silly, except once it was made, many were asking for collaboration. So it wasn't that silly. I saw a potential in that, and I was thinking, when you are in need of inspiration, you might as well open the Bible and read a random verse. But there can be maybe something better than that, and an interactive sacred icon which contains 2000 years of theology, including the Bible, but not limited to that. So you get homilies, you get whatever you want, prayers, and could even generate prayers. That could be a kind of Spotify of Christian faith, and it could be adapted to Christian Catholicism or Protestant or more. It's not by any means supposed to replace a priest. It's just trying to introduce a new channel of spreading faith, like it could have been television. You can see the mass through the telly, and that's just one additional way.
I think that's remarkable. And correct me if I'm wrong. Is it a combination of the nuts and bolts of robotics with some artificial intelligence software combined with it, or how does it work?
Yeah, indeed, it's exactly as you said. There is a shell which is based on some sacred art, some typical sacred art in Christianity. There is a software inside, and there is electronics which makes it all work. So it's mainly based on vocal interaction. There's also the touch and some other sense, but it's mainly vocal. So you speak, your speech gets recorded and transliterated into text, then analyzed, and answer is produced, and then is given to a text-to-speech and is spoken out.
I'm curious from your perspective, how do you think Catholics should view technological advances? How do we interact with them in a way that's good and positive and not kind of get drawn into kind of problematic outcomes? What's your sense of that?
This is a very interesting question, because religion has a deep impact on how we see technology. And this becomes critical when we deal with robots, in particular humanoids, as they are based on the idea of mirroring humans. So there are actually peculiarities in the West, in Western countries, Christian countries, in terms of fear of man-made creatures. And this is called the Frankenstein complex. And it's inherited from Jewish tradition. So it's Judeo-Christian thing. And it's absent in the East. And I see more clearly because I'm in Japan. This is not easy to bypass, but it's part of my research to find a way. And in a certain sense, a robot like Santo is based on an icon that is kind of familiar. So it's try to overcome this fear of the machine.